In old age, focus on yourself and stay silent. Buddhism. Have you ever woken up one day and felt as if something inside you was slowly disappearing? That sinking feeling, like part of your essence is fading away with each passing day? You look back over the years, decades maybe, and realize you've spent your life giving, sacrificing, and holding everything together for the people you love. But now, as time marches on, a haunting question lingers in your mind. After all I've done for others, what's left for me? The truth is, life is fleeting. Like the morning mist rising from the river, it vanishes with the first light of day. You've poured your heart and soul into those you care about, your family, your relationships, your career, always putting others' needs before your own. But now, as the seasons of your life shift, you stand at a crossroads, realizing that the energy you've given so freely has left you with nothing but a quiet emptiness. And the harsh reality is, no one else can take that energy back for you except yourself. Let's come to the first lesson from Buddha. 1. Buddhist lesson on letting go of expectations. Buddhism offers us a profound truth. Attachment to expectations is a direct path to suffering. Think about it. How many times have you given, loved, and sacrificed, believing that the love and care you show will be returned? We often do this with an open heart, expecting that the people we care about will respond in kind. But reality doesn't always work that way. Life moves forward, and people are often wrapped up in their own struggles, their own dreams. Younger generations are busy carving their own paths, building their lives. They may not have the capacity to reciprocate the love, attention, and energy you've poured into them. And as time passes, if we continue to chase their approval or seek validation from them, we may find ourselves exhausted and bitter. Buddhism teaches us that this attachment to how things should be only increases our suffering. We live in a world where reciprocity is often an illusion. The love and care we give may not always return as we expect, if at all. This doesn't mean the love was not real or valuable, but it reminds us that the universe does not function in a way that guarantees we'll always receive what we give. Our expectations often trap us, leaving us feeling disillusioned when others don't meet our standards or return our efforts. So, the key lesson here is this: we must release the idea that love, kindness, and sacrifice must be returned to us in the same measure. The real peace comes when we let go of these expectations and choose to love without attachment to the outcome. 2. Rejecting unnourishing relationships. As the years pass, we may find ourselves caught in the trap of maintaining relationships that no longer serve our inner peace. We've all had those moments when we've tried so hard to keep the connection alive, whether it's with family, friends, or colleagues, believing that somehow, if we just give a little more, they will reciprocate the love and care we've shown them. But here's the reality: not all relationships are meant to last, and not all of them nourish your spirit in the way you may think. There comes a point, especially in later years, when you must decide: do you continue chasing after relationships that drain you, or do you start focusing inward to replenish the energy you've freely given? Choosing yourself is not about being selfish. It's about wisdom. It's about recognizing that in order to give love and care to others, you first need to nurture yourself. The years of sacrifice you've put in, whether in family, friendships, or career, have drained your energy. And unless you reclaim that energy, no one else is going to do it for you. You may have given everything for those around you, but now is the time to ask, what about me? The answer isn't in the constant pursuit of relationships or trying to hold onto connections that no longer provide meaning. The answer lies in turning inward and finding peace in solitude, in embracing yourself fully for who you are right now. This doesn't mean turning your back on life or retreating from the world. It simply means that the time has come for you to prioritize your own well-being. Self-care isn't indulgence, it's an act of wisdom. Just as a tree needs sunlight, water, and space to grow, so too does your soul. So take a step back and allow yourself the time to nourish your spirit. You deserve it. 3. Love and relationships. The freedom in letting go. As you continue on the journey of life, you may find yourself reflecting on the love you have given, the sacrifices you've made, and the relationships you've nurtured over the years. But one of the most profound truths of life is that love does not always adhere to the laws of fairness we impose upon it. When we give love with the expectation that it will be returned in the same way, we set ourselves up for disappointment. The love we offer may not always return, or it may return in ways we didn't foresee. The challenge, then, is to learn how to love freely, without attachment to how, when, or even if that love is reciprocated. The Buddhist principle of anicca, the impermanence of all things, reminds us that everything changes. Relationships, circumstances, people, we may have once felt deeply connected to them, but as time moves forward, these bonds can loosen, unravel, and shift into something new, or perhaps fade altogether. This doesn't mean the love we've given was in vain, nor does it diminish its value. It simply reflects the nature of life. Nothing is permanent. Take the example of May, a woman who spent her entire life caring for her family. She was the constant source of support for her siblings, her husband, and her children. But as she grew older, she found herself alone. Her children, now adults with families of their own, were too busy with their own lives to offer the same love and care that she had once freely given them. At first, May was heartbroken. She wondered what she had done wrong, why her love seemed to have disappeared into the void. But through years of reflection, she came to understand something profound. Attachment to expectation was the root of her suffering. She had loved fully, without conditions, and that was enough. She realized that true peace comes not from being reciprocated, but from knowing that her love was given freely, with no strings attached. This is the essence of the Buddhist teaching on dukkha, the suffering that arises from clinging to attachments. If we cling to the expectation that our love will be returned, we set ourselves up for pain. But when we learn to release this attachment, we open ourselves to a deeper peace. We can love not because we expect something in return, but because it aligns with our values and our nature. And when others inevitably drift away, or when love is not returned in the way we imagined, we can meet it with acceptance rather than resentment. For choosing to care for yourself. As we age, there's a critical realization that often comes too late. The energy you have spent on others throughout your life is precious, and if you don't reclaim it, no one else will. The years of selflessness, the constant giving to family, friends, and even colleagues, can leave you drained, with little left to nurture yourself. As the world around you continues to move, there may come a time when you ask, "Why have I given so much to others, only to be left with nothing for myself?" Buddhism teaches us that self-care is not indulgence, it is wisdom. Just as a candle can only illuminate the room if it has enough fuel to burn, we too need to replenish our inner reserves in order to continue giving. And this is where many people, especially as they get older, miss the point. We are taught from a young age that caring for others is noble, that sacrifice is the highest form of love. But what happens when you've given so much of yourself that you no longer have the energy to care for your own well-being? This is not just about physical care. It's about emotional, mental, and spiritual restoration. When was the last time you truly checked in with yourself? When was the last time you listened to your own needs, desires, and dreams? So often, we become so caught up in the lives of others that we forget to nourish our own souls. And yet, to live a life of peace and fulfillment, this self-care must be a priority, not a luxury. This doesn't mean abandoning the world or isolating yourself from others. It means finding a healthy balance. As you age, instead of looking outward for approval, attention, or validation, ask yourself, what truly brings me joy? What have I neglected in my own life? What passions or dreams have I put aside for the sake of others? These questions may surprise you, but they also offer a profound opportunity to reconnect with the parts of you that have been left behind. Self-prioritization means giving yourself the space to pursue those dreams, to explore new passions, and to nurture your own sense of peace. Whether it's taking up a hobby you once loved, traveling to places you've always dreamed of, or simply sitting quietly in nature, you deserve the freedom to focus on yourself. 5. The power of silence. Silence is often misunderstood in our modern world. When we're young, we feel an overwhelming need to speak, to explain, to defend ourselves. We believe that words have the power to shape reality, to convince others, and to validate our existence. But as we age, a profound shift occurs. We begin to realize that silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a form of strength. It is the power of choosing when to speak and when to simply listen. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of sati, mindful awareness, reminds us that words should be used wisely only when they serve a purpose of truth and kindness. Often, in conversations, people speak not to understand, but to respond, to argue, or to prove their point. The problem is, most of the time, no one truly wins in these battles. In fact, they leave us feeling exhausted and misunderstood. The wisdom of silence is that it gives us the space to step back, observe, and listen with intention. Consider the story of an elderly monk who, after years of engaging in philosophical debates, encountered a young student eager to challenge his knowledge. The young man, full of bravado, spoke rapidly, trying to outwit the monk. But instead of replying with a counter-argument, the monk simply listened. When the student was finished, the monk smiled gently and said, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts," and walked away. The young man, confused and expecting a rebuttal, was left in silence. Over time, he realized the monk's lesson, that not every battle needs to be fought. Sometimes, the most profound wisdom lies in saying nothing at all. This lesson is something we often forget in our daily lives. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention and our voice, silence can be a powerful tool for understanding. It's not about avoiding conflict, but about choosing the moments that truly matter. It's about letting go of the need to prove ourselves and instead finding peace in knowing that not everything requires a response. Silence is the ultimate form of mastery over one's impulses. It allows us to navigate conversations with clarity rather than being driven by ego or the need to be right. 6. Letting go of the need for approval. One of the most significant sources of suffering in life is the constant craving for approval. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek validation, to be praised for our achievements, to be accepted by our peers, and to gain approval from our families. We mold ourselves into who we think others want us to be. The fear of rejection and the longing for acceptance shape many of the choices we make throughout our lives. But as time passes and we enter the later stages of life, a question begins to emerge. Why am I still trying to prove myself? Consider the story of Lila, a woman who spent the majority of her life seeking approval from others. As a young girl, she worked hard to make her parents proud. As a wife, she sacrificed her own dreams to support her husband. As a mother, she placed her children's needs above her own. But when she found herself alone in her 60s, with her children grown and her husband gone, she realized something profound. She had never truly lived for herself. Every decision, every sacrifice, had been made with someone else's approval in mind. Standing in the silence of her own life, Lila wondered, who am I when no one is watching? The truth is, no amount of external validation will ever bring lasting peace. The more we chase approval, the more power we give away. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness arises not from being understood by others, but from understanding ourselves. Imagine a traveler burdened with a heavy sack filled with the opinions and expectations of others. Every step they take is weighed down by what society thinks, what their family expects, and what their friends desire. But what would happen if they set that sack down, just for a moment? The relief, the lightness, the sudden realization that their journey could be so much easier. This is the freedom that comes from releasing the need for approval. Letting go of the need for approval doesn't mean becoming indifferent to others. It means redefining the source of your worth. It's about asking yourself, do I like who I am? Do I live in alignment with my values? Instead of looking outward for validation, you begin to look inward for acceptance. This shift leads to liberation, allowing you to walk through life with a sense of inner peace and confidence that cannot be shaken by others' opinions. Take the story of Andon, a former businessman who spent years chasing recognition and success. He built an empire, gathered wealth, and climbed every ladder society deemed worthy of admiration. But despite his accomplishments, he often felt empty inside. There was always another deal to close, another person to impress, another standard to meet. It wasn't until he walked away from his high-powered career, moving to a small village to live a simpler life, that he felt truly free. For the first time, he was not performing for anyone. He woke up with the sun, worked with his hands, and found joy in the smallest of things. When an old colleague asked if he missed the prestige, he simply smiled and said, "I have nothing to prove, and that is my greatest achievement." The need for approval is an illusion, a mirage that keeps us running towards something that can never truly satisfy us. Approval is fleeting, dependent on the whims of others. But self-acceptance, true, unshakable self-acceptance, is the foundation of peace. Think of the great masters, the monks who retreat into silence, the sages who live on mountaintops. They are not concerned with applause or admiration. They have found something far more valuable: contentment within themselves. Letting go of the need for approval is not something that happens overnight. It takes practice, patience, and deep introspection. It requires the courage to say, "I am enough as I am," even when the world says otherwise. It means standing firm in your truth, even if it goes against the expectations of others. This is the art of choosing authenticity over acceptance, peace over performance. 7. Choosing yourself, the greatest act of self-respect. As we enter the later years of life, we often face a powerful realization: your personal well-being is not a luxury, it is a necessity. For too long, society has conditioned us to believe that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, that choosing peace means turning our backs on others. But the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Just as a tree needs water, sunlight, and space to grow, so too does your mind, body, and spirit need care and attention. If you continue to give to others without replenishing your own reserves, you will find yourself depleted, unable to offer anything of real value to anyone. Think about it. When was the last time you truly checked in with yourself? Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When was the last time you sat in silence and listened to your own thoughts, desires, and truths? Life often sweeps us up in the relentless demands of others. We get lost in obligations, expectations, and the needs of those around us. But here, now, in this moment, you are being called to return to yourself. The choice to prioritize yourself is not about abandoning others. It's about recognizing that your own well-being is the foundation of a life well lived. You deserve to cultivate joy, to embrace the simple and profound contentment that comes with being fully present in your own life. The time has come to let go of the resentment you may carry, to release the weight of expectations placed on you by others. There's a quiet strength in choosing yourself, not out of defiance, but out of love. Love for the person you've become, love for the journey you've walked, and love for the life that still lies ahead, waiting to be lived on your own terms. In this phase of life, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. You do not need permission to find happiness. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself and for those around you is to prioritize your peace and your joy. As the river of life flows forward, you too must move with it, not in search of validation, not chasing approval, but moving with the ease of someone who knows that true peace is not found outside of yourself. It is cultivated within. This is your time. The world may have asked much of you, but now you have the opportunity to give to yourself, to nourish your soul, to honor your needs, and to embrace the life that is still waiting for you. 8. The quiet strength of embracing solitude. In a world that values noise, constant communication, and the hustle of daily life, there is a profound power in embracing solitude. This is not about withdrawing from the world or resigning to loneliness. It is about choosing to spend time with yourself, to reconnect with your own thoughts and desires without the constant pull of outside demands. Solitude, when chosen, can bring clarity, peace, and a deep sense of fulfillment. As we age, we often find that the noise of the world becomes less appealing. We may no longer feel the need to be constantly surrounded by people, to engage in every social event, or to be busy all the time. Instead, we begin to crave the stillness that allows us to truly hear our own voice. This is when we realize that the greatest company we can keep is our own. Buddhism teaches us that true peace comes from within. In silence, we find the space to reflect on our lives, to understand our deepest needs, and to reconnect with the essence of who we are. The world outside may be loud, chaotic, and filled with distractions, but when we embrace solitude, we give ourselves the gift of stillness. In this stillness, we find a deep sense of contentment, knowing that we are enough, exactly as we are, in this moment. Consider the example of a quiet retreat in the mountains, where monks live in seclusion to deepen their practice. They don't retreat because they are running away from the world, but because they understand that in order to truly serve others, they must first cultivate their own inner peace. The same applies to us. As we reclaim our energy and step away from the constant noise of life, we give ourselves the opportunity to reconnect with our own spirit, to heal, and to rejuvenate. Solitude, in this sense, becomes a form of self-care. It's the space where you can listen to your own heart without interruption, where you can rediscover passions and dreams that have been overshadowed by the demands of life. It is the place where you can let go of the need to impress others and simply exist as you are. In this quiet, you begin to understand that you are your own greatest teacher, your own source of strength. 9. Detachment, caring without control. One of the most difficult yet liberating lessons we learn in life is the art of detachment. This doesn't mean abandoning those we love or becoming indifferent to their struggles. It means learning to care without controlling, to love without possession, and to support without expecting anything in return. Detachment is not about severing ties. It is about understanding that, in the end, we can only control our own actions, responses, and peace of mind. Throughout life, we often find ourselves trying to intervene in the lives of others, especially those we care about, because we want to protect them from making the same mistakes we made. We believe that if we just share our wisdom, they will avoid pain and suffering. But the reality is, people must walk their own path, make their own mistakes, and learn from their own experiences. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is to step back and allow others to face their own challenges, even if it means watching them struggle. Buddha taught that true love is free from attachment, free from the desire to control. The story of Anand, the devoted son, is a powerful illustration of this. Anand spent years trying to intervene in his father's destructive behavior, but no amount of pleading or reasoning could change his father's choices. Eventually, Anand realized that he could not change his father. He could only change how he responded. He chose to focus on building his own life, finding peace within himself, and not letting his father's actions dictate his happiness. This is the essence of detachment. Not abandoning others, but trusting that everyone must go through their own journey. In doing so, you create space for others to learn, grow, and find their own path to wisdom. When we release the need to control the outcomes of others' lives, we free ourselves from the burden of worry and frustration. We stop trying to fix things that aren't ours to fix, and we begin to focus on what we can control, our own peace, actions, and choices. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means trusting that people have their own lessons to learn. It is the realization that some storms are not meant for us to shelter others from, but for them to stand in the rain and learn why shelter is necessary. Detachment allows us to love others deeply, but without trying to possess or control them. It allows us to care without expectation, to nurture without attachment, and to let go when it is necessary. 10. Releasing the need for validation. One of the most profound sources of suffering in life comes from our relentless search for validation from others. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval, to measure our worth by the recognition we receive from family, friends, or society. Whether it's in our achievements, appearance, or relationships, we find ourselves constantly striving to be seen, heard, and validated by those around us. But as we age, this need for external validation starts to lose its significance. We begin to question, why am I still seeking approval when I have already lived a full life? The Buddha taught that true happiness comes not from the approval of others, but from the understanding of oneself. External validation is fleeting and dependent on the opinions of others, but self-acceptance is enduring and rooted in the realization that you are enough as you are. Imagine carrying a heavy sack on your back, filled with the judgments, expectations, and opinions of others. Every step you take is burdened by what others think of you. But what would happen if, just for a moment, you set that sack down? The relief would be instant, the weight lifted, and the freedom to walk without that burden would be overwhelming. This is the freedom that comes from letting go of the need for approval. You begin to see that your worth is not determined by others, but by your own inner truth. This shift in perspective allows you to walk through life with confidence, not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because you know you are already whole. Take the example of Andon, the businessman who spent years building wealth, climbing the corporate ladder, and earning the admiration of others. Yet, despite all his accomplishments, he still felt hollow inside. He was constantly chasing the next achievement, the next validation, never feeling truly satisfied. It wasn't until he walked away from his successful career and moved to a simpler life that he discovered what it meant to live authentically. For the first time, he wasn't performing for anyone. He woke up with the sun, worked with his hands, and found joy in the simplest of things. When an old colleague asked him if he missed the prestige, Andon smiled and replied, "I have nothing to prove, and that is my greatest achievement." This is the liberation that comes from releasing the need for validation. You stop measuring your worth by the standards others set for you, and instead, you define your own worth. In this space, you are free to pursue what truly matters to you, without the pressure of others' expectations. It is only in this freedom that you find lasting peace. 11. Prioritizing your well-being, the necessity of self-care. As we grow older, there's a powerful realization that starts to sink in. Your well-being is not something you can afford to neglect. For so many years, you may have placed the needs of others first, sacrificing your own health, happiness, and peace of mind in the service of family, career, or relationships. You may have believed that by putting others before yourself, you were living a noble life. But as time moves on, it becomes clear that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you cultivate with yourself. Buddhism teaches us that self-care is not indulgence but wisdom. Just as a tree needs water, sunlight, and space to grow, so too do you need to care for your body, mind, and spirit. Your life is a gift, and it's up to you to nurture it in order to fully experience the peace and fulfillment it has to offer. Without replenishing your own reserves, you will eventually find that you have nothing left to give to anyone else, and that includes the love and energy you so freely gave away for decades. Think about it. When was the last time you truly checked in with yourself? When did you last sit in silence, listening to your own thoughts, acknowledging your own desires, and embracing your own needs? Life has a way of sweeping us up in the demands of others, but true peace comes when we stop and give ourselves permission to put our own well-being first. This is not selfishness. It is essential. Instead of constantly running after the approval of others, ask yourself, what brings me joy? What have I neglected in my own life? The answers may surprise you. You might rediscover passions you put aside long ago, or even find new interests that bring you fulfillment. It could be something as simple as taking a walk in nature, spending quiet time with a cup of tea, or allowing yourself to experience the present moment without the pressure to meet anyone else's expectations. This time in life is yours to shape. You have the wisdom, the experience, and the opportunity to take care of your own soul. Prioritizing yourself does not mean withdrawing from the world or abandoning your loved ones. It simply means recognizing that your peace, your energy, and your joy are not optional. They are the foundation upon which everything else rests. When you take care of yourself, you are better equipped to care for others and live a life full of meaning. Conclusion: reclaiming your peace and happiness. In the end, the greatest act of self-respect is to recognize that your well-being is essential to living a fulfilled and meaningful life. For too long, we have been conditioned to believe that caring for ourselves is selfish or indulgent. But the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you do not nurture your body, mind, and spirit, you will have nothing left to give. And it's not just about avoiding burnout or stress. It's about reclaiming the joy and peace that belong to you. As you enter the later years of your life, remember this: you owe no one an explanation for choosing peace. You do not need permission to prioritize yourself. Happiness is not something given to you by others. It is something you claim for yourself. Let go of resentment, release the expectations placed on you, and allow yourself the freedom to live fully, unapologetically, and without regret. This is your time. A time to embrace your own presence, to cultivate your own joy, and to step into the next chapter of life with grace, purpose, and unwavering self-respect. The world may have asked much of you, but now it's time to ask, what do I need? What brings me peace? You have spent decades giving, sacrificing, and shaping yourself to meet the needs of others. But now, this chapter belongs to you. Remember, true peace is not found outside of yourself. It is cultivated within. So take a deep breath, feel the weight lifting from your shoulders, and step forward into this next phase of life with confidence. Embrace your happiness, reclaim your energy, and remember that you are worth it. If this message resonated with you, and you felt even a small shift in your heart, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we walk the path of wisdom, peace, and strength together, finding fulfillment in every step. Let's continue this journey toward a life of true happiness, one where you are unapologetically choosing yourself. Thank you for being here. Until next time, take care of yourself, because you are worth it.